Africa is generally inundated with brands from all over the world, and these brands tend to dominate our spaces, culture, shelves, wardrobes, and our homes. In Africa, foreign brands are so ubiquitous that some end up feeling African. But the truth is, most of these brands don't originate from the continent, and in contrast, brands that are from the continent are created, produced, and designed by Africans remain relatively unknown. Welcome to Scaling African Brands, a serious conversation shining a spotlight on African brands with the aim of inspiring and encouraging these brands to expand beyond our borders. Each episode is meant to teach, inspire, and encourage us towards one goal: to scale brands beyond the African borders. Scaling African Brands is brought to you by Advertising Week Africa in association with Advertising Week, which is a worldwide live event with footprint in London, Tokyo, Sydney, Mexico, and New York, being the flagship and founding region. Tshepo.
Sir.
Welcome to Scaling African Brands. So before we get into it, I just want to speak about your profile a little bit. I hope I do justice to who you are.
Let's hear this.
So you were crowned King of Denim along your previous partners, African Swiss, at the SA Fashion Week early in your journey.
Damn, you've done some research, eh?
You started by selling 100 jeans. It took about 6 months. And then later you were interviewed by Forbes and Destiny. And most recently, you were awarded or crowned the overall top brand at the inaugural Top 16 youth-owned brand.
I still have no idea what that means.
What?
I don't know what it means.
What?
Overall top brand.
Overall top brands at the inaugural Top 16 Youth-Owned Brands Awards. You also won the top apparel brand at the same event.
I still don't know what both of them mean. But I appreciate it. I appreciate the nod, you know?
We're going to cut that out.
I'm joking.
So, I mean, these are the inaugural awards for youth-owned brands. And I think to be recognized, because they were voted by people.
Yes, sir.
I don't know what that means for your bottom line. But obviously, people
means we
love
can
your
keep our
brand.
lights on.
No, absolutely. I think people love your brand. So, I want to talk about your where you come from, Tsakani.
Yeah.
Where is it geographically? And please tell us some of your fondest childhood memories.
Damn. So I come from a small township. It's in the far east of Johannesburg. Like, it's towards Mpumalanga. You know, before you just exit Gauteng, the last township, it's a small population of 250,000 people. It's a dusty, dingy, dangerous place. It's a place where, most people would say it's a place of no hope. Like any other township in South Africa or anywhere in the world, it's a place of no hope. But I think that's a place that inspired me to be the type of person that I am. I think growing up for me, I was saying LSG yesterday, we took a drive to Pretoria and I was saying to him, actually, I'm blessed to have the upbringing that I had, where I wasn't allowed to play in the streets. So most of my time was spent at home. And at first I thought like my parents were abusing me. Like, dude, everybody's playing in the street. Why am I not allowed? But I think that kind of gave me more time to think about what do I want to be? Where do I want to go? And I realized that when I was 14, I realized that being in this environment is not real. I'm not supposed to be here. You know, I am destined for something great. I don't know what it is. In my street, mostly get taxi from town, you can see the whole Joburg skyline. And back in the day, Generations was one of the biggest storytellers or soapies in the day. And they had like Maitala, there's like this Joburg skyline. and they're just like New Horizons and all those companies, and I'm like, I want to be in that space. And I looked up to people like about DJ Spoo. I looked up to so many people, Abozola. I looked up to so many musicians that it made me dream far beyond my geographic area, but think that I can also be an impact in the world, and I didn't know what that's going to be or what it's going to look like, but all I knew that I'm not supposed to be there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, townships were not designed.
Yeah.
Interesting, you speak of them as places of no hope.
Yeah.
I think that was the intention. So with your transition, in fact, before we get to you coming to Joburg, you grew up or you were raised by females?
I was raised up by females, man. My mom and my dad separated when I was 7 years old. We moved to my granny's house. So it's literally like my mom, my aunt, my two aunts, my grandmother, my sister, 3 cousins, females. So 7 female in the house and 2 guys, my granddad and myself. So I was raised by females, and I think being raised by females, it's so special, because when you're a boy child, they kind of make you a king, and like they dress you up, they treat you a certain way, with kanda. So and they try to protect you as much as they possibly can. And also sometimes I feel like when females raise you, when they raise a male, they kind of ideally design you to be the ultimate man they wanted. So I was lucky to be raised by a female who is my grandmother, one of the most key people in my life, who was a storyteller, still is a storyteller. My aunt, who's one of the people who inspired me to like dream beyond geographics. My mom, who kind of inspired the resilience in me, which whatever you want in life, you must go out there and get it, no matter how hard it is. And looking back, it's like those people kind of shaped me in small corners, and from wherever I was taking a little bit of characteristics from them. And one person that I hardly speak about, which is my granddad. He was a construction worker, and he's one of those guys who never spoke much, but like he was always like, dude, you must use your hands. For you to change your life, you must use your hands. And today I'm grateful for that, because my hands have changed my life. I don't believe I'm the most talented person in the world, but I believe like I'm a hard worker. And whatever I want to achieve, I put my mind on. I make sure that I get it, and I use my hands to get things that I want. So that's my family structure in a way.
Do you feel that there was a gap with your father not being there?
I mean, it's funny how, when you're young, like when I was 7 years old, like maybe from when I was born until I was 7 years old, I was with my dad most of the time. And he was like a hero to me, and all of a sudden everything changes, and nobody explains it. It's just like you're in limbo, like this guy is no longer here, location changes, nobody's explaining what's going on, and it kind of puts you in a place of like you lost. I was against Galani, but I think Kulele Tsakani, Kule Ekasi, what it did for me, like, because I was a church boy. So when I got to grade 9, it became better. When I was younger, it was a problem because like you go to school, everybody talks about their dad. This is what my dad bought me. I played soccer. My dad bought me booze. My dad took me to Steers or wherever. And you're like, where's my dad? But I can't even ask those questions, because I can see the situation at home. It's obvious. When I started high school and started joining the church choir and being active at church, I met a lot more people who were like me. My friends didn't have their fathers, so we all started having jokes, making jokes with so it became normal that like I was raised by the streets, and my granddad kind of played that buffer, was a buffer between a father figure not being at home. So yes, in my early stages it did affect me. I think it affected my personality. When I was young, I was more of an outspoken person, and I became one of those kids who were like would disappeared. You know, being say in school, you never recognize me. Like I'd be in class and nobody knows my name for the rest of the year. I'm quiet. I'm in my corner. I'm just like, you know, so it kind of distracted me. But in a way, it was a blessing in disguise because I spent more time just like in my head.
That's interesting. All right. So your journey is quite interesting. Because I do believe that every single thing that we go through or that we do does add up. It culminates to ultimately who we are or who we become. So you were into film, or you studied film, and then you studied fashion, but you dropped out. And this is sort of like the experience of many black kids.
Yeah.
Where they want to either they want to study and they can't get in, or once they're in, they can't finish. Yeah, they can't stay. So how did you dropping out make you feel, and what did you do to fix or rectify that situation?
I think for me, it's like I've always wanted to be a storyteller, right? I saw my grand doing it on stage, and the only way I could do it is through videography. So I wanted to be a videographer, a cinematographer. So I went to study it after. Got to after, realized that I actually don't like this as much as I thought I did. I'm more into fashion. Like, I'm always researching what's happening in the fashion world. So I dropped out. I finished my first year at after. Then I went to study fashion design at UJ. And I think UJ was hard. You know, it was tough because like now this is the path that I've kind of like chosen.
You have to stick to it.
Now I have to stick to it, and it's expensive, and the hours are mad. You know, like you go into school from 7 a.m. in the morning, Pumango 7 in Dambama, while everybody's enjoying varsity. Like, you know, people would have like one subject a day, and then we have like 5 a day, and like then there's assignments, and then there's this. You fail one, you fail the year. You know, it was very, 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 very intense. And I remember, I think for me, dropping out was between a conversation that I had with me and my friend Buddha, and Uskini, yeah. And we're like, you know. Because we always wanted to be entrepreneurs. Like, we've always had the edge of selling because we're always selling anyway. And I'm like, dog, I can't afford the fees. In as fast as I'm getting school fees, you know. On the side. And Spoo was like, Tshepo's me, I'm out. Spoo drops out in August. I'm like, hey, it's in a totally span. So I went to go find a job. I was doing promotional work, but I'm also still in school. So during the week, sometimes I go to school, sometimes I don't go to school. Eventually, I was like, this thing's not going to work out. I dropped out. But for me, it was a blessing in disguise because I remember the last time I was in school, I said to the guys, "Nizonsebenzela nonke," you know, and I think that fueled my passion for wanting to do this, and also because I told my family I was going to be one of the best designers in the country, and they didn't believe me, and I was like, so I had to prove a point to everybody around me, the guys that I went to school with, my family, and my friends. So that fueled me. It was a blessing in disguise that I couldn't finish. But also today, like, I'm sitting in a point where I'm like, your studio would be like, hey, can you be our sponsor for the school? You know, and for me, it's like it's the journey has been just nothing but like bliss and a blessing.
And I think that's quite interesting in that you are a storyteller. So you've always wanted to tell stories, but like an artist who paints or whatever, I feel like you tell stories through your brand.
Absolutely.
But before we get into the stories that you tell, why Tshepo? You know, when I think about the name Tshepo, no disrespect, but it's a generic name, right? And generally, when you go through the process
Generic in South Africa.
In South Africa.
Yeah.
That's true. So when you go through the process of coming up with a name, you know, a lot of people want to sound cool or want a name that will stand out before understanding what the brand does. They want the name to be, you know. So what made you go with Tshepo?
I mean, like, I come from an era where there used to be this big fashion channel called Fashion TV, and like I was always glued to it. So you'll see your Alexandra McQueen, your Dolce & Gabbanas, your Tommy Hilfigers, Ralph Lauren. These are names and these are people, you know, and then you see this David Kale, and then, you know, there's Ifemal, there's, you know, and these are people. And I think for me, when I decided with Tshepo, it was scary at first. I think it was one of the most scariest decisions I've ever made in my life.
Why is that?
Because like you said, it's a generic name. How do you want to build a premium or luxury brand with such a generic name? Like, dude, like Tshepo, we all know them, Bashu, Pekasi, you know, like, and how do you change that perspective? I think for me, it was like such a scary thing to do. I remember I met this one guy this one time, and I was like, yo, dude, I want to start a brand. These are the names that I have. He's like, all right, cool. But I'm like, you know, I'm leaning towards Tshepo the Jean Maker more. And he's like, all right. But you know what you need to do? Just write it down everywhere you go. So all I did was, for the first like 4 or 5 months, without doing anything, I was just writing it down. Everywhere I go, Tshepo the Jean Maker, Tshepo the Jean Maker.
Writing it down where? On paper?
On paper, okay. On tissue, on anything. Nisbalelana, anything that I could find myself, whether it's pen and paper, wherever I could write, I would write it down so I can first convict myself that this can be something that exists beyond me. So that's how I went with the name. But also, like I said, it's the greatest designers in the world and the greatest makers, they went with their names. And if you want to leave a legacy and if you want to tell a story, it starts with the name. You know, and I think the Tshepo brand is me telling my life story. And you know, a couple of weeks ago, about a week ago actually, I went to Nairobi, and for a Google event, you know, and then I get there, and then they're like, yo, can you have a chat? Can you have a conversation? I'm like, yeah, sure. What do you want me to talk about? They're like, Askhulume, we'll just flow, you know. But one thing that I realized with Africa is that, and it's everywhere in Africa, is that like black people lack confidence. Black Africans we lack confidence, you know. And one of the questions that they asked me is like, how do you feel worthy to use your name? You know, how do you feel? Because like most designers or most creatives are scared to price. They're scared to embrace the fact that they come from spaces that never celebrated, you know, design or this creative world. How do you do it? You know, and it made me realize that most of us, we do lack confidence, and I think the brand Tshepo exists to inspire confidence, not only in South Africans or just Africans, but I think like there's a broader community of people out there who need to see people like themselves in bigger platforms in the world doing something great. I mean, I am lately inspired, and I'm still, like I've been for the past 2 years, inspired by the Amapiano plays, the Amapiano wave, you know, how it just took the world by storm, and unashamedly so, you know, and it just showed black people from Africa that actually you can create something here and export it to the rest of the world, you know, and sometimes we've seen like Americans do it, but like we can't relate to them, you know, but like once you start seeing a person who comes from the same background as you, who sounds broken like you, then it looks doable. It inspires confidence and inspires get up and do something and be the change that you want to see in the world.
It's interesting. So would you say that confidence is a key ingredient in building businesses. So we talk about all the technical stuff,
Yeah.
right? Of a business plan. I don't know if people still do business plans.
I've never done a business plan.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I think you'd still be thinking about your brand if you were doing a business plan.
Yeah.
But would you say the lack of confidence is what's holding us back in terms of building brands, growing
Definitely.
brands, getting our brands throughout the continent and outside the continent?
I think the lack of confidence is a big challenge. We designed something a couple of weeks ago, and I presented to one of the big retailers, and I could see which this thing is shooting at something, you know. And the marketing director picks up the phone, calls me, he's like, "Yo, dude, I'm coming to Joburg. Let's have lunch." Cool, we have lunch. He's like, "I love everything about your presentation. The only thing your design lacks confidence."
Your design lacks confidence.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And I was like, actually quite right. There's few elements, you know, and design is confidence, and I think like a lot of people do lack confidence, and design or creation is confidence for somebody to be out there and say, "I'm gonna design a wallpaper that looks like this, and people are gonna eat it and they're gonna love it." This is confidence, you know.
Was that the Nkabi collection?
No,
Okay.
no, that's something else.
Okay, cool. And, you know, linked to confidence, I know you've had a lot of backlash for your pricing. So, and I think confidence, not just for business owners or entrepreneurs, but for consumers themselves, to believe in Tshepo,
Yeah.
that Tshepo is worthy of having this price tag. And I can imagine the last time you put up, or the first time I saw people sort of like backlash or push back against you was when you said your jeans cost 950 rands. You know, and I can imagine probably some of the people that were pushing back, they probably had like sneakers for like 1.2 or 2.5, you know, these foreign brands. How does that make you feel? And what happens in your mind? Like, what goes through your mind?
Opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember when that conversation was happening. I think for me, all it screamed was like, "Bro, here's an opportunity to define who you truly are, opportunity to define your values, opportunity to tell people this is what you believe in, opportunity to educate, and an opportunity to take people on a journey." You know, and ever since then, like, because I looked at it as an opportunity, a lot has changed for me, for the brand, and for the business. You know, it's engintwana ye yafika phambi kwayizolo in my Hyde Park store, wearing a t-shirt, a hoodie, balesibusiso mvelase, you know. It's like, "Yo, Groot man." I'm like, "Fuck, when I said Groot man, excuse me, clap it out."
It's all good.
It says, "Hey, Groot man, hey, ngijabula ukubona man, hey, ngusibusiso." I'm like, "Sure, Sbuda." He's like, "Can we talk?" I'm like, "Sharp, let's talk," you know. Which attaches, and we chat, "What do you want to talk about?" It's like, "No, man, I'm doing this thing. I'm a fashion designer. I run my own brand. It's called Velasa. You can see it. I'm wearing it." He's like, "How did you do it?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "How did you do, you know, like when people were backlashing and all that, like, how did you stand firm?" I was like, I think for me, like I said, I looked at it as an opportunity to educate. And also, I feel like I am one of the first, again, honestly, I'm one of the first people to break that cycle of you can use a black name, you can use a traditional generic name and premium, and make it premium and make it world class, you know. And he said, "How did you stand firm in that?" Because I'm facing the same turmoil. But I'm like, "Are people buying?" He's like, "Yeah, people are buying. I find a lot of people actually buying, but I'm also find those people who are like, 'Hey, Sbusiso,' you know, banners are saying Sbusiso." And the point of the story is, it just took me back like to couple of months ago when I was at Cotton Fest, and Indwana saying comes to me, is like, "Roman, I just want to say thank you." I'm like, "Thank you for what?" He's like, people buy my stuff. You know, he makes bracelets, the bracelets that I'm wearing. He makes bracelets. Like the fact that a Tshepo is out there and is making premium items and good quality items has opened up for us as young designers to have more clientele who believe in black products, who believe that Africans actually make high quality items, and I can price my thing for two stina and people don't complain. So I feel like ever since that, there's a whole lot of things that have happened. There's a whole lot of education that has happened. You find brands like Mathosa, you know, who are super luxury, and it has marked its position in the market, and nobody's complaining. You know, 4 years ago people were complaining. Today everybody's embracing. You know, so somebody had to start this. Somebody had to walk the journey. Somebody had to face the challenges, but it has opened up the market, and I think more creatives are starting to feel more confident in what they're doing. More young kids from where I come from, they're starting to do things and create things, and they're starting to price how they have to price.
No, that's amazing. So what I particularly love about your brand is that it is a brand. So I think most times people think about doing business, but they don't necessarily pay much attention to building a brand. So you've got Tshepo. One of the key things from a brand distinctiveness perspective, you've got the crown, which has a huge significance in terms of what the crown means. And then you've got the flag, and then I know there's a story behind Tshepo and what you're intending to do beyond from a transactional means just to sell jeans, but there's a bigger story. What is it?
Sure, I think for me it's like it where I am right now. I'm in a place where I about 6 weeks ago I stopped drinking, right? And because I realize I'm in a space where everywhere I go, there's alcohol, you know, like and I started having so many ideas. Like it's like alcohol became a creative. It intensified my creativity, you know. But like then I started depending more on it, and then I got into the space where in my head I was like, my business is growing. There's a transition that I feel in my personal life. There's a transition that's happening creatively in my head. I'm in a different space I was 7 months ago, and I need to see it. I need to face this thing, and I need to speak to. I kind of need to step back and remind myself, why am I here? You know, and what story am I trying to tell? And I think for me, I'm trying to say to a 19-year-old Tshepo who is about to drop out that, dude, you're not crazy. You know, it's actually whatever you're thinking, it's worth it. I believe that, I don't know, I think like we live in different timelines, and me being 19 somewhere in a different timeline, it's happening, you know. And I'm just saying to a 19-year-old me, if you continue on this path, you will end up here. You know. So for me, the story that I want to tell is a story of African confidence. Africa is not just, you know, we're not just great for South Africa. We're not just great for Africa. We're great for the world. We've never seen. I think my biggest challenge now is like, I want to build a global brand. You know, we've never seen a South African brand apart from Trevor Noah or Nando's that has broken the seal. You know, however, like most people probably outside the country don't know that Nando's is from South Africa, you know, and most people don't know that Nando's is actually quite big, you know. And for me, it's like, I want people to see a version of themselves being on a global platform and being consumed by everybody in the world. Denim is one of the most understandable products in the world, whether you're black, white, Chinese, Indian, you name it. 7 billion people in the world. And in your lifetime, you'll cross path with a pair of jeans. And for me, I felt like it's a great platform to introduce high quality stories from Africa. Also that Africa is not just patterns. I like that. We can do amazing stuff. Just finally, I think one of the things that I feel like it's one of the most great colonial stories. It's when I started going deeper into denim, I learned that the best cotton in the world comes from Zimbabwe, which is our neighbor. There's 800 species of indigo dye in the world. Indigo is the blue of the denims. And 600 of the species come from the continent. 11 of the best come from the African continent. How denim is woven, the waft and the weft, is actually founded in the African continent.
Wow.
So the true ingredients come from here, and for me, it's like taking that story back and reclaiming and being proud of being African and being proud of being who you are. That's what the Tshepo story is all about. It's just like it's a shot of espresso in the morning. If you're feeling down, it's believe in yourself, or no matter where you come from. I grew up in a shack, but like I believe that we all have the same 24 hours, whether the opportunities are different. But if you believe in yourself, if you believe in something, just work hard and you'll get it eventually, no matter how long it takes. It might take you 15 years, 20 years, but if you believe, it's going to happen.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what I think the confidence also and the belief shows up in your products. I mean, the way you name your products. I know there's a
Makriza,
there's a Takalani, there's Kubo,
yeah.
And it's all, again, you telling a story and you're saying to us, hey, you are significant. The only time we mention Kubo is when we're home, about to sleep or wherever.
Yeah.
But it's not an idea that you take outside and you even put a price tag onto it. So I think what you stand for is not just a saying, but it comes through in
sure.
what you do. So what are some of the challenges that you faced as a business owner?
I think being a business owner is like it's like a roller coaster ride, hey? It's a never ending thing. So I'm sitting in a place where I'm a creative, you want to create, you want to design, you want to develop, and also then there's the entrepreneurial part of it, where it has to make commercial sense and you have to make money, and then there's the business side of it where it's like you have, now that you have people that you employ, you better pay them on time, and don't forget that people are not slaves. People need to leave work at a certain time. They need to have holidays and all of that. I mean, like finding the balance between business and creative is it's one of the most challenging things. But like I said, I think if you're doing something that you enjoy, it feels different. And creatives are leaders. I believe that creatives are leaders, are fire igniters. The biggest challenge that I've faced for me, I think, over the past couple of years, and it's not only, I'm not the only person or entrepreneur who's facing this. The biggest challenge that most entrepreneurs, even big companies, it's people. It's just finding the right people. It's probably one of the hardest things in the world. It is. Yesterday, Robbie introduced me to this other family from New Orleans, and
nice.
And as we're chatting, they're like, "So people, I'm like, do you guys have that problem? They're like, bro, finding people is hard. So it's a global issue for any entrepreneur. It's just finding the right people with the right skill and with the same belief as you. Sometimes it's so easy to find people with degrees, with the skill, but then they're dangerous for the business. Their energy is not right.
Correct.
And I'm a believer that like you can find people who don't have the degrees, but who have the right attitude towards the business, and who gets it, and who gets that like we need to build. This is what we're building. There's a story that I heard a couple of years ago, and it's from NASA, and this person was asking one of the ladies who was cleaning. They're like, "What is your role here?" He's like, "No, we're taking a man to the moon." So finding people like that who are like, we're building an African giant. It's hard to find people like that. To find people who are dedicated, not only just bringing talent and skill, but who are dedicated towards the dream, I think has been one of my biggest challenges. And but like we learn and we grow, and taking risks with people, and people are costly. So taking that risk and hoping that you're going to reap the rewards.
No, absolutely.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I've faced over the past 4 years.
No, I agree. I think finding people who share in your vision, have got the right attitude and the right spirit.
Yeah.
Because anything else you can teach, and if everybody is moving in the same energy, you can figure things out.
Yeah, yeah.
So, how did Meghan Markle end up wearing your brand?
I'm a firm believer. Like how I was raised is that no matter who walks into your space, treat people the same way. I treat whether you are the most richest man in the planet or Umchita Sekoneni the same. And so, it's something that I always preach to my sales team, to my storefront team, that you never know who walks in your doors. Before I tell you about Meghan Markle, there was one time, Exeni, like about 7 at the office. This guy knocks at 8, and we open the store at 9. Knocks at 8. I'm like, I'm on Tumimvulel, This guy is just wearing like dirty denims. And, it's like one of those people who are like, hey, I'm strategy, man, I could clean from the one. So I'm like, yo, let's assist this guy. I'm like, he's like, yo, I've heard about your brand. I'm like, oh, cool. What do you want? He's like, I want to try on a jacket. I'm like, fuck. But he tries on a jacket, tries on a pair of jeans. He ends up spending 20,000.
Wow.
Swipes it.
Wow.
And I'm like, never judge a book by its cover.
For sure.
How Meghan Markle got to us, I think apparently, I asked her, like, how did you hear about us? She's like, no, actually my friend, she was here, and apparently like you gave them one of the best experiences ever, and they couldn't stop talking about you.
Wow.
In Buckingham Palace. I'm like, what? That's how it came about. It's like somebody who walked into my space on a specific day. I didn't know who they are. They got a world-class service. And when they were coming into the country, they're like, let's make sure that we go see the Tshepo guy. And that's how it happened. And I think for me, it's like always just treat people treat people the same. How you treat people, you never know who you, who they are, where they might 100%. Take you. You never know.
No, I agree. I remember I asked Gordon Cook a question about, as a small business owner, how do you build your brand? And his answer was like one of the most simplest thing ever. Fundamentally boils down to customer service, where he said, so imagine if you are a bread seller on the side of the road. If you took the effort to know everyone's name and greet people with a smile, imagine somebody comes and buys bread. You ask them what their name is, and they tell you and they say, I'm Tshepo. Next time they pass, or Tshepo, hope you have a lovely day.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in customer service, one, because that's the one thing you have control over.
For sure.
You don't need financing. You don't need to raise capital. You just need to be nice to people. So that's quite interesting to hear as something that people can inject in their own business.
It's so important. Like, one of the biggest challenges that we have in our brand, which is a blessing in disguise, right, is we have such a loyal customer base. Like, when we drop something, I know already, like, I can sell 100 easy, by just like being on my phone. Exchange Ayami, Ukraine, here's something new that's coming. Should I drop it off to you? It's like you're saying, it's taking that effort to learn the people and to understand what they like. And it just builds that loyal customer base, and you're going to build a multi-million business if you can take the effort and to learn people's names.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, we talk about vision, passion, whatever, the right people. But for somebody listening and they literally want to, so obviously you have to have tangible stuff. You have to have systems in place. In terms of hiring the people, who have you hired and is adding value to your business and making sure that the business grows? If you can't mention the name, but maybe a title, like, okay, I hired this person, or I've got this title that makes sure that the business grows.
Only recently I started giving people titles. At some point I didn't believe in titles. Because some people, especially when you hire the wrong person, they're like, it's not my role. I'm not supposed to be tagging. I think one of the best things that I've ever done for myself, I work closely with my sister, and we grew up together. She studied construction and something, and every time on my holidays she'd come and work for me, and I teach her, do this, do that, and she's never worked actually in construction, until she completed her studies. She's literally running operations in our business. She's one person who believes in the brand, protects me at all costs, who protect what we have at all costs, and we learn as we grow. I'm lucky that I always had to. I found somebody that I'm like, I'm gonna groom. Every time when I grow, I'm like, hey, don't do this, do that. As in, go take this course. It's a 6-week course. Go do it so that you can add this type of value in the business. So I have that type of person that I've groomed for the past 4 years. Dume and I was sit. I remember during lockdown, and was so, and then eventually I was like, I'm done of this thing. I went to the shop, to the office, and I designed a mask with one of my designers, with Jason, and we designed a mask, and then I took a photo and I posted it on social media, and then like, in a day we sold 1,000 masks. In a day. I only had one. Only one sample. And Dumi was sitting downstairs. Mina send my invoice. We don't have an online store. We have nothing. Send my invoice ganj until like 4 a.m. in the morning. And I mean, that's dedication. So I'm lucky. I think about 4 or 5 people who've been walking the journey with me for the past 4 or 5 years, since 2018 actually, who believe in what I believe, who've seen their lives change as we move. They've bought themselves cars, they've changed their families' lives, they have consistent income, they can see growth as the business grow, and I think I'm lucky, and also I think I have good partners as well, who believe in my vision and who always believe, who always bring me back to me. With the example, this is what you said you want to build. If you make this type of decision, does that serve that the belief that you have. You said you want to build a world-class brand, so there's certain things that you have to say no to. If we're phoning you, I'm so phoning you. But don't do things for fame, don't do things for money, do things for what you want to build. And I believe that I think I'm lucky that I have a very strong support system around me, from my partners to my team, and also to my clients.
That's interesting. You know, the thing about not doing it for fame, so how I got introduced to you was you guys were talking about this concept called celebrity entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Where at that time, I think you guys were more famous than your brands.
No, definitely.
So, but now I see the brand more on social media versus
the person.
And I think this is one of the challenges that most entrepreneurs might be struggling with. Or sometimes they feel that the business is running, but they might have the urge that maybe I need to be as famous or more famous than the brand. How did you pull back? What was the thinking around? Literally, like every second post on Instagram was.
So what happened? What happened was we're chasing fame so much. Like every single space that dealt with fame,
you were there.
I was there, right? I remember this one time we took it was a Friday. It was a Friday afternoon, Friday morning. So nosbuda saringa nje I shoot my sa JNP met so mangena sharp ngisendlini cool. My grizu yavuka. She's not settled. She walks around the house. Eventually she comes knocking in my room. Neil, okay, I want to pray for you. Something is not okay. Prays for me. About 10 minutes later, loud in this car, loud. Man, sihamba se Cape Town, siyabuya. Ne, ngizonibona mangibuya. Alright, uhambe grand, sharp. City Josie, Slando Arthur, sishaya indlela se Cape Town. Sbu drove until Bloemfontein. From Bloemfontein, I drove to Bedford West. It's like a 14-hour drive. Sfike Bedford West. We stop in a garage, refill, buy some pizzas, some energy drinks, take a walk, about 5 o'clock stretch a bit. So it is like, I don't feel like driving. I'm still a bit tired. Can you just drive for the next hour? And then Zoitat to Cape Town. Sharp, no problem in Miami. So we drive out of the garage. I was like, hey, my chance, I was listening to the sermon by Bishop T.D. Jakes. Can we play it? I'm like, sure, boy. I'm still fresh. My T.D. Jakes was party tongue. Salala. I followed after.
Yo.
While driving.
Damn.
In a narrow road, the car went to the side. Spoo wakes up, is like, yo, Tshepo Simoto. I'm like, damn, so both of us have our hands on the steering wheel, and eventually the car flips. And we had a short conversation. I said, Vaya. We conversed. Boom, the car flipped. Pa, 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 pa. Eventually, like, damn, yapume motweni. Athi yapume mova. Usbudu stuck motweni. I think at that moment, when I came back, after the whole ordeal, we didn't end up in Cape Town. We flew back from George. At that moment, I made a decision that maybe I've been given a second chance to do things right, to do things better. So you're no longer going to be chasing for fame. You're going to focus all your time and effort and energy and everything to building this thing. If you're going to die, make sure you leave something behind. And I stopped being in the streets. I stopped everything, literally cut out everything. I stopped hanging out. I'd literally sleep in my studio. And me focusing on my business and focusing on my brand, I saw change within 3 months. I saw more customers. I saw where I was going wrong. I saw the energy changed, and now I believe that, I believe in build it and they will come. Rather be celebrated for something that's substantial something that's truly there. You know, I would walk or sit behind people, and then like maybe in Hyde Park, and I remember this family was chatting. It was like, yo, do you know this brand, Tshepo? And I'm just chilling. No, they don't know me. I'm just chilling there. I'm just having my breakfast. Like, yeah, hey, I'm like, wow. And like, I'm just listening to the comments, like, yo, he's done well, whatever. And like, they don't know me. Like, they look back, but they don't know who I am.
Yeah.
But they know about the brand. And for me, I was like, this is all I've ever wanted. It's for people to celebrate the brand for what it is and talk about it in their own personal spaces for what it is, and it can become part of their lives. And if I happen to be in that space, I can be celebrated, but let me be celebrated for building something that has added value in people's lives. And I've stepped away from the celebrity entrepreneur. I run away from things that make me a celebrity, because I feel like let's build. You know, there's a bigger project here. You know, I'll be celebrated later on in life once I build a gigantic business that's gonna employ 100,000 people globally. You know, and I think for me now, I'm existing in a purposeful space. I'm existing in a space of impact. I'm existing in a space of building things that last.
No, that's incredible.
Yeah.
I think for me that speaks to the idea where people get lost in the sauce and they don't prioritize, or they don't know what's important. I love the fact that when you started zoning in and focusing on the business, you saw results in the first 3 months. So imagine now multiplying that. That's amazing.
It's mad.
So currently, where in the world does your brand have presence? I'm not talking about physical stores, but which countries have bought from you, and how did they buy from you?
I mean, we've had people from Paris buying from us, from Sweden, from Amsterdam, from LA, from New York. We're living in a very beautiful age. We're living in an age of hashtags. You know, if you hashtag jeans, so many brands pop up, and then whoever you find, and then you can go deeper with area and location. Some people found out through social media, others through a word of mouth. You know, like I said, I think how you treat people will talk about you.
Right.
You know, and for me, it's like I've seen the power of social media and the power of word of mouth. I think more importantly, it's like has been word of mouth. Like when somebody bought something and they're like, actually, I love this so much, I need to buy it for my mates in the UK. I need to buy it for and then the word starts spreading about, and that's how we've managed to break borders. And also like how we're positioned at Victoria Yards. I think positioning also plays a role where you are. Victoria Yards, before lockdown, it was a place of tourist destination. I mean, like we were making more money from tourists than we were making from locals.
Wow.
You know, so I partnered with a small tourist companies, and they would bring people from the boutique hotels. Nice. They would bring all the tourists who are like in Joburg for like 2 days, and then they go into the Kruger. You know, because that's what most people with money do. They come to Joburg for like a day or two, and then they go to the Kruger. And we designed it in a way that like when they're here, they must come and see Tshepo, you know, and they'll be like, oh my God, like you can see the people making jeans, you can find it, you buy two, and it's nothing. It runs to $1.
Correct.
It's nothing. So how we're positioned for a global customer. And that also got our word out there globally. And also like I think just I said, like the word of mouth has really done so much for us.
I love it.
Yeah.
And you know, when you say word of mouth, in our industry, it's no longer a thing. It's not even part of the plans. So I love the basicness of it, that word of mouth is still important.
Bruh.
But I think also what's important, or what my takeout is there's thought behind what you're doing. There's a lot of strategic decisions that you're making. And I think that's what a lot of businesses struggle with, where you've got a business, maybe you do post on social media, but I love the fact that you were able to make strategic alignments and alliances with people or associates or partners that allowed you to reach the right audience and
For
to
sure.
achieve your objective. And I think even more important is that already you have the global mindset. I don't think you can be continental or global if you don't have the right mindset.
For sure. I think like it's for me, it's like when I kind of decided that we're gonna build a global brand, it had to be right, you know. Sometimes, you know, like especially with social media teaches you a lot. It teaches you, like, even if you can get 10,000 likes, doesn't mean you're selling 10,000 jeans. You know, but how do you sell those 10,000 jeans? It's through the word of mouth, it's through the partnerships, it's through the collaborations, it's through people talking about you. You know, you can have a huge ass billboard covering the whole sky, but like if nobody's going to refer to you, give you a referral, it won't sell. You know, and I think like a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of young creatives who are coming out, they think like once a poster or tell them I like so deal, but like that's where the job starts. Actually, you know, you've created the awareness, you've created the dream, you know, that's the dream setter. But like you have to do the actual work. And Tshepo's like has that global mindset. A couple of weeks ago, you know, like I always have conversation about what's my next move, you know, and it's now myself and my team, we were like, we can't build another store locally, you know, because where can Igupi, you know, and we've realized that our next move is global. You know, it's the UK, it's Europe, it's America, it's the US. It's more global because I believe that there's more people who, you know, it for me is like I'd rather have smaller boutique stores in global spaces and find my people, you know, and as opposed to building 50,000 stores and diluting the name. And yeah.
What I love is that you're very specific about your success. So I think a lot of us, you know, a lot of people, when they get into business, we steer towards one type of definition of success where it's bigger, it's better, it's faster. You know, the more you have, that feels like success. But I love the way you define your own success of smaller boutiques, presence here,
It's
presence
the better,
there.
hey? It's all about better. You know, if you look at all luxury brands in the world, they don't have a lot, but they're making a lot. But it's because whatever they do it better. If they're gonna do a couch, they do the best couch. You know, whatever you do it better, and you charge for it. You know, and there is somebody out there who's gonna pay the price. There is somebody, like, I think this one time when I sold a pair of jeans for 14,000 for the first time, I couldn't even believe it. Mangi charge and I'm even and when somebody paid for it, I was like, actually, like, khona abantu abaningi, you know, khona abantu who can afford. There's people who, and all you have to do is just find them. It's just to do it and like find them, you know. And how do you find them and how do they find you? That's the challenge. But like, there's always somebody out there. There's always a market, and the pie is big. You know, we're living in a place, especially in SA or in I don't know. I've experienced it with my people. Right? Is people don't like to share. They don't like to share information. They don't like to share resources. They feel like, I don't know, they feel like not to the space, you know, and the pie is big, you know. I'm one of those people who constantly shares whatever. Ufuna supply, bamba. Ufuna in, bamba. Because like the pie is huge, you know, and the more there's more Tshepos, the more the pie grows and grows and grows.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great mindset.
Yeah.
That's a truly great mindset. So, you know, you've spoken about the the global stuff. And I think for people listening, there's so much great insights in terms of, what they need to do to grow. So what are your last parting words to people who want to scale, their own brands, whether they're from South Africa or Nairobi, Nigeria, wherever? What can you say to them to help them scale beyond the continent?
I think for me is like what has worked for me is ungasabi. Iyenze bese uzoxolisa after, if that's the case. I'm a firm believer now, more lately so than so, is always go back to the true genesis of why you're building something, and also listen to the flow. Go with the flow. For us to open this door in Hyde Park is because we felt that the business is growing and it needed another place. It needed to exist in another place than where we were before. So it's go with the flow. Don't be scared to take those risks, and always knock in people's doors. Like, for us, like we've seen how if I have a crazy idea and and I knock in somebody's door, and so for me, it's like always take those risks, be confident in your product. No one can sell your product like you can do it yourself, and always stay innovating. Innovation is key to any other business in the world, and stay focused. Stay focused, and stay foolish and stay crazy. Mangse Mauritius lately, I saw one of my suppliers and we're talking about Renzo Rousseau. He's like, Renzo Rousseau was the crazy guy, Taps. Was the crazy guy. And I'm like, and this guy is asking me, like, where do you find the challenge? I'm like, people, we're talking about people. It's like, but you are the crazy guy. Be the crazy guy. Be the crazy guy, And I think when you're creating something and if you want to scale something, go crazy. If it's a mistake, it's a mistake. At least you've learned, but enjoy the journey as well. Those are my parting words. And don't take advice everywhere. We sometimes, because people have bigger titles and they've achieved so much and they have so much money, more than you, but nobody knows your vision more than you do. So don't take advice from everybody. You can listen to people, but always follow your gut feeling.
I love that. Thank you.
Are we done?
We're done. Africa is generally inundated with brands from all over the world, and these brands tend to dominate our spaces, culture, shelves, wardrobes, and our homes. In Africa, foreign brands are so ubiquitous that some end up feeling African. But the truth is, most of these brands don't originate from the continent. And in contrast, brands that are from the continent are created, produced, and designed by Africans remain relatively unknown. Welcome to Scaling African Brands, a serious conversation shining a spotlight on African brands with the aim of inspiring and encouraging these brands to expand beyond our borders. Each episode is meant to teach, inspire, and encourage us towards one goal: to scale brands beyond the African borders. Scaling African Brands is brought to you by Advertising Week Africa, in association with Advertising Week, which is a worldwide live event with footprint in London, Tokyo, Sydney, Mexico, and New York, being the flagship and founding region.